25 years ago, there were no personal computers with instant information access via the internet around the world. If I gave a speech here 25 years ago to an economist convention, and if I had said millions of people will search billions of computer pages and have them rank ordered in less than a second at no cost, you'd say, you're a very nice young man, but you don't know anything about economics. And then I'd say the next second, another 100 billion people, a million people do the same thing at no extra cost. That's where we are. No cell phones, no digital cameras. Few had ever heard of global warming. AIDS. 25 years ago, if you had said a new virus is going to knock out the management class of a continent called Africa, you would say that's not possible. And when I gave talks 25 years ago to a variety of audiences around the world, and I'd ask, do you think we'll have World War III between the Soviet Union and the United States? The majority of hands went go up. So the majority of the, quote, intelligentsia of the world didn't think we'd be alive today. So what's possible in the next 25 years? Lines of computer code. We write lines of computer code to invent all kinds of things to be done that we didn't think were possible, such as what you just saw from Ed. This is computer code. These are new kinds of things that are being written. We're inventing reality all the time. We think nothing about it. There's a whole new world. We're saying, yes, artificial life may be as big a big deal as the cyber world was. And I'm not talking about your grandfather's gene splicing. I'm talking about, remember you've heard the expression, the Biome Project was to get the alphabet of life. What do you do with an alphabet? You make words, sentences, paragraphs, pages, chapters, books, libraries, and civilizations. That's what we're going to do with life. We haven't had this sink home yet. You ain't seen nothing. And for example, one of the ones is as you know, the guy Craig Venter. He's the guy that speeded up the Genome Project. Remember, it was supposed to take a bunch of years, and all of a sudden, bingo, is done. Well, this guy now is trying to figure out how do you make. What you do is you take different parts of genetic codes of different species, all kinds of different stuff. You know, so like a print shop. You know, you're taking the letters A's and B's and all this little. You put it together and you make a newspaper. That's what we're doing in life, is to create wholly new life forms. And one is, that he's working on, is how do you make a plant, or something like a plant, mass produce hydrogen instead of oxygen? I mean, how many plants could you put in the desert to produce hydrogen? We all know that one of the ways people get old and infirm is the gray gunk that gets in our synapses, right? What happens if you make a microbe that eats that stuff? Right? Now we have how many microbes in our body doing digestion? You know, we are one big committee system of microbes. Well, we got nothing in our brains that I know of that's helping us think clearer. Well, why don't we invent life forms for that? Maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea, but we have to think together as a species about this. We have not come to grips with artificial life, and it's in the process now. Next, connecting everything. For example, smart socks. I go to the LA airport 25 years from now or less, and I might say, Mr. Glenn, I'm very sorry, you can't board the plane. I said, I got my ticket. No, you can't board the plane. We've got a message from your life insurance company, maybe single payer, we don't know yet, but your life insurance company that says that your socks have transmitted a signal to the cells system within the insurance company back to us that your blood pressure is such that you need to take 2 aspirin because we don't want you to die on our plane. And we have this deal with the insurance company that, you know, not to have you die. And I pay a little less in insurance because I've had these socks on to save my life. So if you can connect socks to airplanes, you know, what else can be connected? Imagine absolutely everything being connected. On top of all what Ed was just talking to you about the augmented reality and how all of the digitalization of the environment goes together. So whatever can be connected, not only visually, but kinetically, that you have decisions in these points, like the socks overruled my plane ticket. Trans institutions, it's a new kind of an organizational structure that the Millennium Project is patterned after, and I'll explain a little bit about that later. But imagine something that's a little bit UN, but not quite. There's something that's corporate, but not quite. There's government, but not quite. University, but not quite. NGO, but not quite. But able to move through all of those systems and be influenced by all those systems. And that's a new kind of an entity that you could use to address AIDS, we'd use it to address the future. But imagine those entities that can move so quickly then it's doing competitive analysis, doing synergetic analysis. And by synergy, I take from Bucky Fuller the example of a wheel in a box does squat. A wheel under a box does tons of work. So it ain't the components that matter, it's the relationship that matters. So if you can do trans-institutional, self-organized bodies and hook those things up, then we can accelerate the institutional decision-making system in the world. People who have studied the Millennium Project, by the way, external evaluators like the United Nations University, cannot believe how effective the outfit is per dollar, because we act through every system that's around, as is needed at the time. Whereas if you're a university, you've always got to be a university. You know, if you're a government, you always got to be a university. You can't turn into an art museum. You know, you're still a government. But what happens if you're able to chameleon like that all the times, so that you're only acting with self-organized, selected people on the topics that you want to? And if you don't want to play, you go to some other system. But you're still looking for the synergies among them, not simply the competitive analysis. Open source economies. We have private enterprise that says private ownership. We had socialism/communism that said state ownership. But anybody that works in Silicon Valley knows where the creative edge is non-ownership, open source systems. Why do we go to open source non-ownership? Because it's too complex to own it and upgrade it yourself. Well, what happens if nanotech goes that way? What happens if artificial biology goes that way? We have a whole new economy evolving under our nose we don't even know about yet. Cities managed as urban systems ecologies. Misspelled nanotech there. One piece of advice, never trust my spelling under any circumstances. My analysis isn't bad, my spelling's terrible. Anyway, imagine coal factories as massive nanotech tube factories. Where did plastic come from? Oil company mistakes, right? So imagine, because we not only have to, stop the carbon in the cars and so forth, we also have to stop it from the energy plants as well. So we're going to need a lot of carbons in coal plants. Why not turn those into a cycling system? So the output of one, which is a waste, could be an input to another. We haven't thought that way as urban systems ecology yet. Solar power satellites, big surprise, by the way. Japan's agreed that in 20 years they're going to have a solar satellite system. These things in space take the energy, microwave down to a point, and hit the energy grid. All right? Controversial, needs study. We've got to look at the health impacts. We've got to look at all kinds of stuff. But Japan says we're going to do it. And this way you can put the base load electricity of the planet, managed globally. Like, for example, we've got a lot of nuclear power plants in France. They're already there. At nighttime, they're not used much. Why not take that unused capacity, microwave it up, send it down to South Africa? And there was like half the Earth is dark, the other half is light. Well, what happens if the optimum amount of electricity goes around the world as you need it? The efficiency is extraordinary. That's what we do with data. That's what we do with voice, video data. So let's do it with energy as well. Japan's the first mover. You can imagine all the interest lined up against the idea. It has no... The only reason Japan is doing it, by the way, is because of the fault lines. They would go nuclear power like France, but they said, look, we don't want to build nuclear power plants in the fault lines. This is a little dangerous. So anyway, we'll see if Japan holds in there. If they do, other countries will join in, and we could have solved the energy crisis coming up. It takes about 17 years to turn over the fleet of cars around the world. So 25 years from now, it's reasonable to assume that almost all of the cars and all the vehicles are electric. That's a reasonable assumption. And although I try to act on behalf of the different cultures running around the world, I'm embarrassed about my own country. I want to buy an electric plug-in car now. I got to go to China to buy it. Did you know that? Yep. Yeah. It's embarrassing. I was a GM tester for their car, the VM1, electric vehicle 1. What is it, 15 years? Yeah, I was one of those drivers. It was great. I would have bought it. And it's amazing to me that I can't get it here. I got to go to China. Anyway, but it does have an interesting consequence. So instead of Saudi Arabia controlling the oil, you end up with Bolivia controlling the lithium cartel. So there's a few things to think through on these things.